Today, we want to tell you the story of a girl who, after her boat sank, wakes up alone on a deserted island and struggles to survive. One night, when she notices a plane passing by, she throws a flare towards it. However, as the flare falls into the sea, she sees a tall monster standing on its legs, staring at her. Now, the girl must figure out a way to survive and deal with this monster. At the beginning of the story, on a remote and deserted island, we see a girl named Jen. After their boat sank, she barely manages to reach the shore and finds her friend, Brad, lying on the beach with a huge coral lodged in his stomach. Without knowing what she's doing, Jen pulls the coral out of Brad's stomach and heads into the jungle to find water. After a while, Jen finds a coconut, cuts it open, and returns to Brad, only to find that he has died from blood loss. Shocked, Jen starts searching the area, and after finding a bag, she checks it and finds a pill inside. Later, when she discovers a cooler, she finds some sodas in it. After that, when she finds a metal box, she discovers matches inside. She places some twigs on Brad's body and sets them on fire. As night falls, she wraps herself in a tarp and sleeps. The next morning, while Jen is on the shore and finds a few dead fish, she suddenly notices a small shark that has been killed with strange wounds, which surprises her. A little later, she finds a notebook, but the writing inside is faded from moisture. She then comes across a photo of a few people but doesn't know who they were or where they are now. When Jen looks around, she notices a cross that appears to be placed on a grave. This makes her hurry to dig up Brad's decaying body and bury it under the sand. The next morning, when Jen wakes up, she gets extremely scared when she sees that Brad's grave has been opened and is full of blood, which means some creature has come and taken his body. After this event, Jen knows that the creature will come for her sooner or later, so she immediately cuts down a tree trunk and drags it to the beach, leaning it against the shore so she can sleep sitting up all night, facing the jungle. The next morning, when she sees a suitcase in the water, she swims toward it. When she reaches it, she decides to take a quick look under the water and notices a large hole in the ocean floor. However, she is afraid to get closer, so she takes the suitcase back to the shore. After checking it, she finds some feminine items inside and decides to use them. That same night, as Jen sits next to the fire, she suddenly notices a plane flying by. Because of this, she throws a flare towards it. However, it's too late. And as the flare falls into the water, Jen sees a terrifying creature standing on its legs, staring at her. Seeing this, Jen grabs a spear she had previously made and runs into the jungle, hiding in a secluded spot. She realizes the creature has come looking for her, but it fails to find her. The next morning, when Jen sees that the monster has destroyed her camp, she looks at the photos of the people who had been there before and spots the creature in the shadows. She decides to take Brad's vest, go into the suitcase, and escape from there. However, she can't because her resources aren't enough. Before night falls, Jen decides to hide in the hollow trunk of a tree for protection, but in the middle of the night, the creature comes and strikes the trunk. Jen manages to stay quiet, and the creature leaves. In the coming days, Jen decides to use her spear to fish, and eventually, she catches a shark. She hangs it on a tree and hides nearby, hoping to see the monster. However, when she falls asleep for a moment, she wakes up to find that the creature has taken the shark. The next day, when Jen sees a half-destroyed human body washed up on the shore, she wraps it up. That night, she suddenly becomes aware of the creature's presence, but at the same time, she hears the sound of an airplane passing by. She has to stay quiet. In the following nights, Jen uses a sailcloth to make herself a tree hammock so she can stay out of reach of the creature. However, when night comes, the creature finds her, throws her off the tree, and Jen starts running. Weergold bepayan metanizafashud. Well, a creature suddenly jumps into the water and appears before Jen. Here, Jen strikes it with her spear, throwing it to one side. But when the creature attempts to finish Jen off, a sudden lightning strike scares it, and it flees back into the ocean. After this, Jen notices her leg, which was slightly injured the night before, and suddenly spots an inflatable boat on the water. When she swims toward it, she realizes that her boyfriend, Lucas, and Brad's girlfriend, Mia, are inside. Because of this, she helps them and brings them to the shore. A few hours later, after giving them fish meat and soda, Jen tells them about a filthy monster that lives on the island and suggests that they use the inflatable boat to head west, as she has seen planes flying in that direction. Here, when Jen shares the news of Brad's death, they respond that they've been drifting on the water for days and refuse to return to their previous circumstances. They claim Jen is probably hallucinating after being alone for so long. Later, when Jen takes Lucas's knife to cut the fish, she notices some blood on the knife. However, she proceeds to gather food and coconuts secretly and tries to leave the island using the boat. Lucas, however, catches up with her, and during a struggle, Mia knocks her unconscious with a paddle. A few hours later, as night falls, Jen regains consciousness to find herself tied to a tree. Mia gets up to take a walk, leaving Lucas to talk to Jen. Lucas complains to her, saying he was always happy with his friends until he brought her his bad luck on this sailing trip. He says she was constantly unhappy, and her bad luck ultimately caused their boat to crash. He also admits he always disliked one of his friends, Zach, but this trip made him dislike Jen as well. He warns that he might leave her to die on the island forever. At this moment, Mia, while walking on the shore, notices some torn fish and starts screaming. Hearing this, Lucas grabs a burning stick and rushes toward her, only to find the monster has grabbed Mia. He strikes the monster, but it leaps into the water, taking Mia to the hole in the ocean floor. Meanwhile, Jen frees herself and arrives, but it's already too late. The next morning, Lucas helps Jen, and together they prepare to leave using the boat. They gather their supplies and set sail westward. However, Jen notices several dried bloodstains in the boat, but says nothing to Lucas. A while later, when they are hundreds of meters from the shore, they realize the monster is beneath them, striking the boat. They immediately zip the boat shut, but soon see the creature tearing at its bottom. The monster plunges its head into the boat, but Jen kicks it, and Lucas fires his last flare into its mouth, scaring it off. Shortly after, the monster returns, dragging Jen underwater and toward its hole. However, using Lucas's knife, she wounds the creature and escapes. Meanwhile, she notices Lucas with a paddle, trying to rescue her. The monster grabs Lucas and drags him into its hole. Jen makes it to the shore, lights a fire with great difficulty, and begins writing down her experiences so others can identify her after her death and learn about the creature. Later, she starts crafting a spear, sets a bait surrounded by wood and straw, and waits. At night, the monster falls into the trap, and Jen sets it ablaze. She attacks it, guerrilla style, with the spears she prepared, wounding it repeatedly. Each time, the monster hurls her aside. Finally, it captures her, but before finishing her off, collapses from its wounds and dies. Jen, exhausted, sits down and decapitates the monster to use its head as proof of her story. She then prepares to set out to sea, using the monster's head as evidence.